You could say it's southbound or you could say it's eastbound, approaching the 405. 405 north or south. Southbound would take this pursuit through the Sepulveda Pass into West LA. Northbound side would take it up towards the north end of the valley again in Van Nuys. Unclear what's going through the head of the driver, if he's just trying to get away at this point or he has a mission here. But the bottom line, it continues, this pursuit here, live over SkyFOX.
Rick, we know that a number of spike strips have been deployed. I'm wondering about the speeds here. You've been watching this pursuit for a long time now before we got on the air with it. What kind of speeds did we see earlier with the start of the pursuit?
He was definitely going at a higher clip at times because we could see traffic, essentially, he was passing the normal flow of traffic. So the speeds were up there for a time. And again, this pursuit, if you're just joining us, started, we believe, in the Boyle Heights area. Northbound side of the 5, that's coming out of East LA, Boyle Heights, on the east side of downtown Los Angeles. Up towards, you can see some spectators on that pedestrian bridge here, knowing that this pursuit is happening. Then eventually up into the San Fernando Valley. 118 freeway westbound, that would take the pursuit through Granada Hills, over towards Chatsworth, up through the Santa Susana Pass, so we had to climb that hill, and then drop down into Simi Valley, westbound on the 118 freeway through Simi Valley, connected with the 23 through Moore Park, southbound on the 23, then reconnected with the 101, and made his way west on the 101, or east, I should say, on the 101 or south, however you want to look at it. More pedestrians there on that overpass in Encino. Yeah, and this pursuit's been going long enough, and people, if they're in the neighborhood, they have plenty of time to walk out and capture it.
I mean, it's moving pretty slow. I felt like I just got one of your old traffic reports from Good Day LA there. Lots of freeway mentions there. We believe that this thing started at 8:15 tonight. It's now 10:10. So that gives you a sense of how much fuel this thing has. We want to show you some video from earlier. If you look here, this is the moment where the spike strip was deployed. And if you can see, there's some smoke that comes when the truck ends up interacting with that spike strip, which did some real damage to the wheels, but not enough damage to stop this thing. It may have slowed it down, but not to stop this thing. So you're looking, one of those boxes is live, and then the other box, of course, is video from earlier. That's what we're looking at right there.
And you can see a clear freeway, so the CHP has done a good job at holding traffic back here to give this rig plenty of space to keep everybody safe at this time. Now we're at Balboa Boulevard, so right up ahead, Alex and Christine, will be the interchange of the 101 freeway and the north and southbound sides of the 405. Right. So we'll see. He has an option here to make that transition or just continue on through the valley floor on the 101 freeway towards Studio City.
One of the best known and busiest freeway interchanges in the entire world. Of course, not particularly busy at 10:10 at night. This would be a very different scene if this was in the middle of rush hour. And it's quite something, Christine, as you mentioned, to see all those cars to the right that have been pulled off. You don't usually see that during the middle of a pursuit.
Well, you got to think that at this speed, cars would be coming up on them as well. So they've got to stop the cars from, interfering with the pursuit that way and whizzing past them.
And they're doing that as a traffic break, essentially. Yeah. Those units behind, Christine, very good point there, and Alex, that the CHP is going to hold that traffic back to prevent anybody from getting up right up against the cab here and endangering themselves, because we still don't know what the nature of this this man, we believe, who's driving this this big rig, his mental state at this time. Could he be armed? We don't know that.
Here's another car up ahead. We haven't really seen that yet.
And I think what's happening there is the on-ramps there on the 101 freeway perhaps aren't completely being managed yet. So there are vehicles that are able to get on. Now, this van is trying to get in front, and this is the type of thing, never try to be a hero. Never. You just don't know what you're dealing with, and we've seen this a lot with pursuits. You're going to endanger yourselves, perhaps the officers at this time, and you can see that van, perhaps, because that van's not going 65 miles an hour, he's keeping his speeds down as well, on par with the rig. But now the rig is picking up speed, so he's getting a little more agitated now. The night sun on the van there, probably telling that driver, hey, back off, let us do our work, and don't endanger yourself or anybody else. So Haskell Avenue, the two right lanes would be the transition roads from the 101 freeway south to to either side of the 405 freeway, and it looks like the rig is staying more in the middle lanes there. There's the big sign there that would indicate that.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to light that van up to say, hey, back off, get away. We don't need your help. You're going to interfere. And here comes the CHP unit.
Whoa.
And that's exactly what may be happening here. Go away, back off, pull off to the right. We don't need your help. You're endangering the public here by trying to interfere. And there he goes. He finally got the attention, that CHP unit finally got the attention of the driver of that van there. Again, this big rig, 18 wheels, a couple of them disabled for sure because of some successful spike strips, but it's still moving on. These big rigs have fuel capacity of anywhere from 120 to 150 gallons. We heard that the owner, the operator of this big rig said that the fuel tanks were approximately 50% full when this pursuit initiated, when this big rig was stolen. That's what the want is on this. We don't know the connection of the driver to the company, if it was just some random individual at this time. Overall, the driver has not been driving too erratically, has been keeping speeds well under the speed limit. As you can see, SkyFOX nav all over at 34, 35 miles an hour. We've seen some sparks coming from the wheels at times. And here we go. This is Haskell and Magnolia 101 freeway here, lit up by the night sun. Look at that, perfectly lit up by that helicopter. It's an LA County Sheriff's helicopter. There could be an LAPD unit up there as well now that we are in the city of Los Angeles.
And, you know, when we saw those pedestrians who were on the overpass looking at this pursuit, I thought, oh, that's my big fear. Someone's going to come along and try to interfere, bring the pursuit to an end, get involved. And that's exactly what it looked like we perhaps saw. All right, staying on the 101, again, this pursuit started around 8:15 in Boyle Heights. We are now in the Encino area. We want to show you some video from a little bit earlier tonight where there was, we talked about the spike strips, where you could see smoke and then one of the tires comes off. So that's in the big box there of your screen there. You can see that the tire comes off, but again, Rick, you talked about the many, many tires on this vehicle. It is still able to go 2 hours now into this pursuit.
That's right, and again, 18 wheels. That's why we call them an 18-wheeler, and even though a couple of those tires are completely gone because of the spike strips being deployed earlier during this pursuit, it is still moving, but at reduced speeds. It's been averaging around 30 miles an hour or slightly less. Oh, here comes a vehicle getting on the ramp that has no idea, likely, that this big rig is being pursued. So again, they're still trying to probably manage those ramps to prevent traffic from getting on. And now you see on that stretch of the 101, and this is the time of evening, 10, 11 o'clock, we start to see those cone zones, Caltrans setting up for that overnight road work. So that is an issue as well. And those workers are out on the road to try to plug up any potholes or do some resurfacing that we see during the overnight and early morning hours. And that stretch of the 101 there, we're now into the Sherman Oaks area. Yeah, some more sparks there. So let's see if eventually these tires, enough of them have been disabled and down to the rim, that it will finally bring this pursuit to an end. Because again, pit maneuver, this is the highest sided vehicle out there. It's unclear if that cab was full or not, but how to commandeer a vehicle like this if you're not licensed or certified. It's not an easy, as we see that helicopter whiz by underneath SkyFOX there, it's not easy to commandeer a vehicle like this unless you have been trained. But so far, this individual who is driving this big rig coming up from the Boyle Heights area into the San Fernando Valley, towards Simi Valley, south towards Moore Park and Thousand Oaks, then back into the West Valley, has done a pretty good job keeping speeds down and relatively safe, even though he's not pulling over. And again, we believe it's just the driver that's inside that cab, Alex and Christine.
Keep in mind, we do know that there was a witness to when this vehicle was stolen. Somebody reported it and followed it out, giving law enforcement some good information. So you do have to wonder, Rick and Alex, if it was somebody who is an employee or a former employee, somebody known to this industry, somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, I wouldn't want to try to drive a big rig.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
They seem pretty competent at driving a big rig, as we, though, are looking at sparks on the road, and you wonder if that'll do any sort of damage to the road there as well when you see all this happening. It's really concerning, Rick, when you do see those Caltrans workers that are out on the freeway and you see those sparks, and you just hope that this person does not lose control of the vehicle because of those tires going down to nothing, to the point where he or she may end up you know, hitting somebody that's on the freeway that's working right now.
That's right.
That's my concern right now.
Left 2 lanes coned off there. Slow for the cone zone, as we always say up in SkyFOX, because of those hardworking men and women out there plugging up those potholes, resurfacing, repaving the roadways for us so it's an easier drive for us. 101 Freeway through Sherman Oaks. This is through the heart of the San Fernando Valley, at least on the south side of the valley, having passed the 405 just a short time ago. The next interchange would be the Hollywood split, where the 101, the 134, and the 170 meet. And you have to wonder, Alex and Christine, if this big rig, this driver that's being pursued by law enforcement is going to circle back to the location where it started.
Yeah,
that's kind of the direction he's going.
That'd be interesting to see. I'm wondering, too, if this is an experienced driver or not, how much more difficult it is to drive a big rig with damaged tires.
Yeah, you have to think that is definitely going to be an issue, especially if somebody isn't experienced. But that begs the question again, if this individual is comfortable, if he's licensed to drive a big rig. We believe it's a male, and we believe that's the only individual inside the cab at this time. But no erratic road behavior from what we've seen so far in terms of driving or inside the cab at this time. And speeds were up earlier, but not to the point of it being really unsafe. And now we're just seeing speeds down, and perhaps they're at that 25 to 30 mile an hour level, just because the big rig has been disabled so much. Again, 120 to 150 gallons on average these big rigs can carry of fuel. We heard from the owner, the operator, that this big rig had approximately 50% of that when this big rig was stolen earlier this evening. And we continue to watch this move through the San Fernando Valley, and you can see those cones that are set up. The overnight Caltrans work there, the left 2 lanes of the 101 freeway southbound through Sherman Oaks as we approach the Hollywood split, where the 101, the 170, the 134 freeways meet, are flared off there.
So we are now again in the Sherman Oaks neighborhood of the San Fernando Valley on the 101, and we could see that it appears that the driver is wearing one of those orange vests that oftentimes construction workers would wear, and so you wonder about what this person's background is. Maybe that is some sort of clue in terms of where they come from or what led them to this, if there was some sort of workplace dispute or something that led to this moment right here. And you do see what appears to be some more sparks coming from this vehicle as well.
The night sun's on it. You could see the illumination there. That's a law enforcement helicopter. I do know that the sheriff's department was up over it for a time. This now could be an LAPD helicopter that is following this at a lower altitude than SkyFOX. We're likely up at 1,200, 1,400 feet through the San Fernando Valley, and down below, those helicopters from the LAPD and the LA County Sheriff's Department, they could be as low as 400 or 500 feet, tracking it, illuminating it, so that officers on the ground, giving those officers on the ground in those patrol cars some intel as to what they're seeing. Anything unique? Does it look like perhaps this individual could have a weapon? Is there anybody else tucked underneath the dashboard or something like that? Those are the answers that the crew on the ground, the patrol cars on the ground, want to know.
So, Rick, you're pulling double duty for us based on your experience in SkyFOX. We've had you on many a pursuit in the morning on Good Day LA. But I want to ask you about the weather, because that is our meteorologist. We talked earlier about the fog on the West Coast. I'm wondering about fog in parts of LA and the route that this truck has been going and it is going.
He's staying out of the fog in the valley, that's for sure. The marine layer has shrunk quite a bit. The onshore flow has backed off, and that's producing quite a disparity in weather conditions across Southern California. It did today, and it continues tonight. We're seeing areas of dense fog near the shore. Visibilities have been down to a half a mile or less at spots like Santa Monica, LAX, the South Bay. Meanwhile, on the valley side, across the Santa Monica Mountains, just a 12-mile spread between the Santa Monica Pier and Woodland Hills. We saw a high temperature in Santa Monica today in the fog of only 59 degrees. Meanwhile, Woodland Hills, again, 12 miles away as SkyFOX flies, as the crow flies, 89 degrees. So a big 30-degree spread, but as of right now, this big rig in pursuit is evading that fog. As long as it stays in the valley and well east of the coastal areas, there won't be any problems with the weather. And that will help the airborne units, the LA County Sheriff's Department, the LAPD, who have been tracking this from above.
Well, here we are close to Laurel Canyon now, going 25 miles per hour, and you're really seeing how much construction gets done at night with all those cones there and those workers. Can you imagine what they're thinking as they're sitting there working to see this pursuit come up on them and to watch this truck go by and the CHP officers? And it looks like, Rick, that they are still blocking off traffic because you aren't seeing other cars come flying by.
And it also appears like they've been given a heads up that this thing is coming.
Yeah.
And it looks like everybody is just waiting for it. And you see how much traffic is moving on the other side, which gives you a sense of how much traffic is not moving as we move this way on the 101.
And we saw that situation where that van tried to intervene and perhaps block the big rig, and I don't know what vehicle is going to be able to do that. But then that CHP patrol unit, after the night sun from one of the airships, lit the van up, and that didn't work. One of the patrol cars, the CHP patrol cars, came right up on the side and said, hey, you get away, back off, don't intervene, let us do our work. And again, a good teachable moment. If you ever encounter a situation like this, treat it as a traffic break. That's what those units are doing there, Alex and Christine. They're holding traffic back to prevent anybody from getting up, because the speed of this is 30 miles an hour or less, and the general flow of the 101 is, what, 70, 75 when it's wide open? That would be the case. And you could see a nicely lit big rig there from the night sun, from the airship, illuminating that big rig. We will be approaching now that we're in Valley Village, and there's another unit holding traffic off the on-ramp, because that's what they want to do as well. They want to try to block those on-ramps to prevent traffic from getting on, endangering those drivers there. Left 2 lanes blocked off. We're coming up on the Hollywood split. Again, that's the stretch where you could make a right and make your way towards Universal City, into Hollywood, and then back into downtown LA. You can continue on the 101. It'll transition over to the 134. Then you're going to be by the Los Angeles Zoo, by Glendale, by Burbank. So we'll see what happens here. And if he does, in fact, make his way back to the 5 freeway and then south towards Boyle Heights, to the origination of this pursuit, to where this big rig was originally stolen from, allegedly.
Well, that's the report.
And we don't know his relationship to the company or what would potentially prompt this person to steal this big rig, but we do know he seems to be pretty good at driving it and has been doing so now for over 2 hours. And based off of Rick's very excellent math that he's been doing, could be going for a while. Maybe we'll end up in Sacramento, Rick.
That's right. There's a possibility. Here we go, though. This is, I just saw the sign for the Hollywood split, so this will be interesting to see what direction this individual who's being pursued by law enforcement here through the San Fernando Valley chooses to make. Those right lanes there, that would take this driver, this pursuit, south on the 101 freeway, perhaps, if he veers a little bit more to the right. There it is. That's the split that we call the Hollywood split here in the San Fernando Valley, the southeast end of the 818 here through Valley Village, heading up towards the Universal City area here. Speeds 30 miles an hour or less. Watch it with our extreme nav system that SkyFOX employs here, the 101 freeway, and we'll see what happens here, Alex and Christine. There's the signs there. And it looks like he's keeping it 30 miles an hour, and he is going to take the 101 south. So he is going to make his way down towards Hollywood into the downtown Los Angeles area. You can see all the units behind him holding traffic off.
Universal Studios, right?
That's right.
Based off of where he is. So we've got some video we want to show you from a short time ago. This was on the ground. One of our stringers caught it. Get a real good sense of the driver. You got a sense of, obviously, those are the police following, but look closely. You see who this person is. You see they're wearing that orange vest, and you see them driving, you know,
he saw our camera, too. You
confidently.
Saw. He looked at the camera.
Can you imagine the state of mind of this driver here, leading law enforcement on this pursuit, now at slow speed, 34 miles an hour here, for over 2 hours? They got to know you don't get away with something like this. It's going to come to an end.
It looks like a younger gentleman, so does a male. It doesn't appear anybody else is in the cab there. But that was a great shot by the camera operator on the ground.
We think, too, of a reason somebody would steal a big rig. I can't imagine it's for the belongings inside. This is for IFS, Individual Food Service. It's not like it's electronics or goods that might be of high-end value, I would think.
And we don't know if the cab is full or not, too. That's the other question, because that makes the vehicle drive at a different rate of speed, in terms of maneuverability, in terms of that. If those cabs are empty and you make a hard, sharp turn and it's not weighted down by the content, the food or whatever services that this company provides, then it will have a better likelihood of overturning if it was to take, this big rig was to take a quick turn.
Well, it's
no
not
tire there. Look at that.
It's not exactly like you can take this thing away in a subtle way.
No.
I mean, you can't really hide. It's like Shaquille O'Neal was late the other day for the NBA on TNT show, and they said you can't exactly sneak in here at 7'2".
You have this.
You're in an 18-wheeler, like somebody's going to notice as you drive down the freeway.
And the motorcycles, right? So those are the two. Like, and the motorcycles are the ones who on occasion get away.
They can pull into a parking lot and you dump it, and all of a sudden they're walking with the crowd in the mall and nobody knows the difference.
More sparks.
This is a little harder to do when you're in an 18-wheeler.
You know, I said to Shaq once, you can't even put on a baseball cap and hide.
No.
You know? And he said, I know what I'm getting into when I go out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, perhaps, well, I've never seen a pursuit like this with a big rig. We've seen them. I've covered them.
Definitely
it's rare.
have.
It's rare. It's rare. It's but not unprecedented. We've seen U-Haul trucks. We've seen big campers. We've seen it all from SkyFOX.
We saw an Army tanker years ago in San Diego, which was maybe the craziest pursuit that we've ever seen.
Yeah, we've seen quite a bit. And this pursuit, you know, going 25, 30 miles an hour. You can see people are congregating on the overpass there. This is through Universal City, as I said, and this pursuit would continue into Hollywood.
That. You get that motivation?
No, I would never.
Like, you know what? Let's go cheer on the big rig and wait on the for the thing to come at 15 miles an hour.
Hey,
what are we doing? Celebrate it, or you get an Instagram shot or a selfie?
It's all for the gram. Exactly.
It's all for the gram.
What it is.
Yeah.
Rick, what do you make of this? Kevin Takumi, who flies a lot for us in SkyFOX, giving us reports, says there is fog in the direction this truck is going.
Yeah, on the other side of the hill. If you go out of the valley and make your way towards downtown LA, the low clouds and fog have pushed inland. It just depends on what direction the pursuit will continue. But absolutely, if this pursuit makes its way into that deck of stratus, the fog with that marine influence, then the airborne units are going to have to back off for safety, and they're not going to be able to track it from above. And it's when you make your way across the Hollywood Hills, across the Santa Monica Mountains, that topographical barrier, which, when the marine layer is shallow, protects the San Fernando Valley from the fog and low clouds. And that's what we saw today. That's why we saw a high temperature of 89 degrees in Woodland Hills with bright sunshine, and a high temperature of just 59 degrees in Santa Monica with that dense fog. And that fog and low cloudiness pushing inland as well towards the downtown area. So we'll see what direction this pursuit will continue. 101 South has not exited the freeway from what we've seen at all from when it started. 5 freeway, Boyle Heights, up towards the north end of the San Fernando Valley. The 118 freeway westbound through Granada Hills, Porter Ranch, up through the Santa Susana Pass into Ventura County, Simi Valley, south on the 23, and then on the 101 freeway south back towards the San Fernando Valley, and then here from the Hollywood split towards Universal City and then into Hollywood.
It is now 10:30. You are watching the Fox 11 News at 10. Alex Michelson with Christine Devine and Rick Dicker. We have been watching a CHP big rig pursuit for now 2 hours and 15 minutes. This thing has been driving across Southern California, now moving into one of the better known areas of Southern California, just past Universal Studios, heading into Hollywood. We'll be passing by the Hollywood Bowl, the Capitol Records building, other well-known landmarks in a short period. Not driving especially fast as it moves there, but it looks like the 101 has been shut down because of that. And there's you see that fog that it is approaching from the air.
But Rick, you know, the fog's going to give perhaps some cover from the air if the helicopters can't fly through that fog to follow this. But on the ground, this truck isn't going anywhere. Law enforcement right there.
That's exactly right. But the air units, especially SkyFOX for safety, will never fly above a cloud layer like that. We always want to see the ground in case we have some sort of mechanical issue and we have to do what's called an auto rotation and have to make a landing somewhere. We need to see the ground. We need to see that open football field where we can land, or another open LZ landing zone that we could get down safely. And when you're covered by that deck of fog and low cloudiness, it's just not safe to fly, at least for us. Some other air units can, and sometimes they have a different type of equipment. If they're IFR rated, instrument flight rules rated, they can move through weather like that. But fog is not a friend of SkyFOX, and we saw the tragedy that it had an effect on with Kobe's helicopter.
So, well, we are going to prioritize the safety of our crew up there as we now approach this thick fog. So we may lose the picture there for a while. We also have to be concerned about fuel because we've been up for over 2 hours doing this, and SkyFOX doesn't quite have as much fuel as this big rig does.
No.
The ability to go. So we got to prioritize our crew's safety. So as we pull away from this thing, we're going to try to get back over it when it's safe and get you more updates. But in the meantime, there is other news that we want to get to half hour into this show.
Now at 11, a SWAT standoff with the driver of a stolen big rig is finally over after it stalled traffic on a busy Orange County freeway for hours. Good morning and welcome to CBS 2 News at 11 and streaming on CBS in Los Angeles. I'm DeMarco Morgan. The Simi had been driven down to its rims when the suspect came to a stop on the 55 freeway early this morning. The chase lasted for more than 6 hours overnight from East LA to Ventura County, then east to Commerce, before finally coming to a stop in Santa Ana near the MacArthur Boulevard exit. It then turned into a standoff that left drivers stuck on the freeway. CBS 2's Kara Fincham is live with a look at how it all ended for us. Kara, good morning to you.
Good morning, DeMarco. You can see the spot where this all ended just behind us here, and traffic finally back to normal, flowing freely after what was one long and crazy ordeal. This is how a nearly 13-hour pursuit and standoff ended on the 55 in Santa Ana. The man suspected of stealing a big rig and shutting down the freeway put his hands in the air.
There was some type of communication. We convinced him to come out. He came out peacefully, and he was taken into custody.
It all started around 8 last night in East LA when an employee reported a big rig stolen from a food service line. The CHP began pursuing, trying to stop it by deploying spike strips repeatedly.
All right, look at that. There goes the tire right there.
But the driver just kept going. He drove across the 5 and 118 freeways. Around 11, he was seen heading south on the 101. Law enforcement had trouble tracking him at points because of thick fog. But shortly after 12:30 this morning, he ended up back on the 5, crossing into Orange County, and then came to a stop on the southbound 55 at MacArthur. The CHP said the truck, riding on rims, couldn't go any further. That's when the standoff started.
It's a nightmare in here. People got to get to work. I got to go home.
This man and others were stranded for hours on the shutdown freeway as a suspect moved around in the cab and tried to rev up the truck.
I was just waiting, trying to get to the airport. I started at 3.
Ultimately, the CHP turned cars around on the shoulder, cleared the freeway, and the SWAT team surrounded the truck with guns drawn, securing the surrender.
It's a younger adult, maybe in his early 20s. He did appear to be scared.
Fortunately, nobody, including the suspect, was hurt, but he is now under arrest and expected to face a long list of charges. And a CHP spokesperson tells us it's standard protocol for officers to surround a vehicle in this kind of standoff situation with their guns drawn because they don't know whether that suspect might be armed. But they say in this case, it does not appear that the man ever had a gun. DeMarco?
Oh, and it's a good thing it is finally over. Kara Fincham live in Santa Ana. Kara, thank you for that report.